You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Chip Gilchrist, voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. You're listening to OHL Overtime, an in-depth interview show highlighting the players, coaches, and broadcasters from around the Ontario Hockey League who make the league so great, as well as in-person coverage of events such as the OHL Playoffs, OHL Championship Series, OHL Combine, and more, exclusively on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here's your program host, Brandon Caputo.
Welcome into another edition of OHL Overtime right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. If you're watching us on the video version, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell that stays up to date with all of our video episodes. As well, thank you to those listening on your favorite on-demand audio podcast platform. You can also give us a follow on X at Armchair GM Pod, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the whole 9 yards. For all of our short reels, our media content, it's great over there. Check that thing out. I'm your host of today's program, Colin Ward. BC is in the clouds. For those who listen to the OHL and 60 podcast, he's been getting the clouds. We miss him on here for sure. Big thanks, BC, for letting me host this event tonight. We are pleased to be joined Chris Whalen from Chris Whalen Hockey. He's going to join us tonight in a couple minutes. Chris has been great. I got to meet Chris a few seasons ago, for the past few seasons, that is, with the Brantford Bulldogs, Hamilton Bulldogs. And fun fact, 21-22, video coach of the Bulldogs, that OHL championship team. He was a video coach of that team. We're going to learn a lot tonight. Chris Whalen Hockey, he has great testimonies. It's been great. He's got a lot of pro hockey players, Nick Lardis, Jake O'Brien. There's a few guys, Patrick Thomas, Jamison Reese. There's a lot of really good pro hockey players that have been with Chris Whalen. So after the break, you're going to hear from Chris Whalen on your podcast forums. See him on YouTube. It's going to be great. Can't wait to chat with Chris. We'll be back in a few moments. He's honest, he's hardworking, and he's incredibly supportive. That's what 8th overall the Seattle Kraken in this past draft, Jake O'Brien, had to say about Chris Whalen. Chris Whalen of Chris Whalen Hockey. Chris, welcome aboard. And tell us a little about yourself. How's things going? And I know I mentioned about 2-3 seasons back now with the Bulldogs. Started as a video coach, won an OHL championship. That's incredible at year one. How's things going, and what's life been like for Chris Whalen Hockey lately?
Things have been great. Thank you for having me. It's been good. Just a little bit about me for the viewers. I started as an intern with the Bulldogs when I was just a kid. I was like 17 and worked there part-time all through university. As soon as I graduated, kind of started in a management role, scouting and video coach. And then kind of graduated it to a lot more player development, more on the management side. I think the role we called it was like special advisor to the GM. And then, I spent a lot of time there and made a lot of great friends there, obviously with you being one of them. Still love the staff and so many lifelong connections came from there. So it was a pretty special time for sure. And then now I've got, no, go ahead.
No, you're good, Chris. Keep going. Nope, you're good.
Perfect. Yeah. So now I've got my own venture going on, called Chris Whalen Hockey, where I work with a lot of players one-on-one to help grow their game, teaching a lot of hockey sense and noticing kind of some of the gaps in development these days and how I can help make players better and kind of help them reach their goals. So that's kind of what I've been focused on.
What would you say your biggest takeaway, Chris, from video development side of things with the front office? What are your biggest takeaways from those moments and helped you develop your program here?
A lot. So for me, I was really fortunate. I learned from a lot of really smart people. Obviously coming through that organization, there's so many that we could name, Steve Staios, Matt Turek, Jay McKee, Andreas Carlson, Andrew Campbell, like the list it doesn't stop. So for me, that really shaped how I see the game and my ability to evaluate and everything I do now stems from what I learned from, that staff and the people I worked with. So that was a big part of it. The video, understanding what to look for. Jay was the best coach to work for, best head coach. He was awesome. So that really helped a ton. And then I find with the player development side, you get to put all of those skills together because there's a little bit of the video side. You definitely still have to evaluate and use the scouting understanding and ability to project upside and potential. And then the player development side is more of like the one-on-one coaching where you have to find out how every kid learns, and each client and every player you work with is different. They all have different learning strategies. So you really have to connect with the person and understand what you're dealing with in that way. And then on top of that, you have to evaluate their game, identify where they need to improve, and then find a way to connect with them and have the material kind of resonate with them in that way too. So it's a little bit of everything. And I think that's why I love it so much.
And, we get into the development standpoint, and I know, Chris, you've done a fantastic job. I was lucky enough to watch you guys go to work. I mean, you guys do an incredible job. All the respect in the world to you guys. In your guys' development, it's everything, right? But what's the most crucial attribute, would you say, Chris, in development? And, what's the most crucial attribute for developing a player nowadays?
Well, when I look at players that are successful at every level, for me, there's two common themes, and it's hockey sense and competitiveness. As you progress, like when you get to the NHL, the baseline for the other skills is so much higher. But for every player, to me, that contributes at a high level, you're looking at hockey sense and competitiveness. And I find there are some other traits that people maybe value a little bit more, but I find that's where the key components are. If you can think the game, you'll be successful.
And you have Jake O'Brien on the screen right now. For those watching on YouTube, Jake O'Brien's one of those guys who thinks the game faster than most. Is that something that I know you were big in that draft class when Jake came into Brantford at the time, their first year there? Is that one of those guys when Jake came into the facility and you watched him, you did your due diligence throughout the season on Jake? Is he one of those guys who just exploded on the scene for you? And what was the most impressive part about Jake O'Brien that you saw then? I remember doing his first interview at First Ontario Center at the time, and I'm interviewing him, and it's like the kid's shaking. Now you talk to him, and it's like nothing. It's like a conversation, like no mic's there, which is awesome. And is that something that you saw the maturity in his game, in his draft year? And what made you think Jake O'Brien is going to be an 8th overall pick in the OHL and in the NHL? Is that something that really stood out to you with Jake?
Yeah, so he's obviously a special player. Hockey sense is off the charts. And just being around him while he played for our team, he comes to the rink every day with such a professionalism. It's really special to watch him work just because he's so dedicated, so driven. For me, everything character-wise is off the charts. Like it's no surprise to me that he's as successful as he is.
When you're out scouting players, Chris, what's that number one intangible you look for in a player? When you're out in an arena scouting a player, you're trying to get him in Chris Whalen Hockey. Is that a guy? What do you look for when you're scouting a guy?
Yeah, it honestly, it comes down to the same things. It's hockey sense and compete. And for me, I think that's one of the benefits of what I do and my ability to help players when I work with them now is everything that I teach has to do with what scouts look for when they're evaluating. It's no different for me. Like everything I want in a player is exactly what I'm teaching. And it's, how do they read the game, understanding how plays develop, pattern recognition, making others around them better. There's all kinds of different hockey sense techniques that we look for, anticipating plays. It keeps going on. So for me, that's definitely part of it. Competitiveness too. Just a willingness to be competitive, win puck battles, willingness to defend and want to put yourself in positive positions on the defensive side of the puck too. And then obviously there's the skill and skating, and then obviously physical upside and growth that scouts look for as well. But for me, it was always hockey sense and compete. And if we can get those two to combine, then you're looking at a pretty solid player.
Development trends. I know you get a guy in Chris Whalen Hockey, you're going to follow him. You're there, right? It's a counseling.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything you're going to get from that program. How important is it to follow the positive trends and to be able to learn from, you got to be an everyday. If you want to be a pro hockey player, you got to be an everyday player. How important is it to really be there for the player in a positive mindset when, hey, things aren't going well? And for me personally, knowing yourself, Chris, you're one of those guys that when things aren't going right, you're a great guy to talk to. How important is that to be a positive communicator? Because let's be honest, you're going to have B games. Games aren't going to be great all the time. But how important is it to treat the B games like an A game and an A game like a B game and keep that neutral ground?
For sure, for sure. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. I try to be personable, and that's part of it with this too, is that ability to connect with the player. It's no different than, a teacher at school, right? Like you have a bunch of
That's
students.
coaches nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And all of your players, whether you're a coach, whether you're a teacher, it's students, they all learn in different ways. Some of them you can be really hard on and you can be honest with. Some of them you have to handle a little delicately. And part of it is understanding their personality, knowing where they're coming from, having empathy with that. And then you nailed it. Like throughout a season, there's a lot of ups and downs. And part
Long
of
year.
that is yeah, and part of that's mentally too, like confidence. Like sometimes players are playing really well, they're really confident, everything's working. Couple games go by, you lose that confidence, things aren't working. And it's part of what I do too, on top of obviously the development and giving advice on how to improve your game in the long term. Part of it is helping kids work through the everyday ups and downs of a season. And if you call it peaks and valleys, like part of my goal is if you're up and you're doing really well and your season you're having a peak, how can we extend that? How can we keep that going, keep that momentum rolling? And then on the other side, if you find you're not playing well right now and you're not playing to your capabilities and it's maybe a valley, how can we simplify, get back to the simple things that we need to do to get you out of it? So with me, there's definitely a lot of the long term picture and understanding how to develop hockey sense and gearing everything towards the OHL and pro. But there's also a lot of the short term too, and it's like, okay, if this is working, how can we make sure this is continuing to work? And if something isn't working, what small changes can we make to get you out of that for right now?
And and I hate to put you on the spot like this, Chris Whalen Hockey, follow Instagram, get on there on social media, the website as it's on your screen on YouTube right now. Hit the link if you're on the podcast form, follow along. 16-year-old in the Ontario Hockey League. It is the hardest jump, especially this season. You see how many guys, Matthew Schaefer, another guy, like you see these guys go right to the NHL, right from the Ontario Hockey League. And you're seeing that jump come I know it's not easy, but you're seeing it come relatively easier than it's ever been before for other players. And the skill is better than it's ever been. 16-year-olds making their debut in the Ontario Hockey League. I know we talked about Jake O'Brien, and you're not always going to be Jake O'Brien and win Rookie of the Year. That's only one of one. Guys that come in at 16, it's a hard league. You go from being a player on your U16 team, being the best player, you have the puck in every situation you're playing, but now you're coming in the Ontario Hockey League, you're a rookie, you're having an 8-hour bus ride to Sault Ste. Marie on a one-off. We've been there before. You have these fun trips, but you're playing maybe 1 in every 5 games. It's hard to keep that confidence. Maybe, and I know I played with some guys before where things aren't going right and you start to maybe not think the game where you have been. How important is it to teach IQ, and how do you do that, I guess, is a question? Because especially when you're 16 years old and you come up like that, it's so hard because like all of a sudden you got to fight again. You haven't had to fight your whole life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the OHL is a really hard league for young players, and I think a lot of players misjudge that when they get into the league because they're used to being the best player on their minor hockey team all the way, growing up. There's a couple factors for me, and the one is understanding the mindset of a lot of young players don't come in and get first line opportunity in year one. Usually, like there's 5 or 6 every year that are really impactful in year one, and then the rest you're fighting for ice time. And you could find yourself on the fourth line, you could find yourself as a healthy scratch, and mentally working through that as a young player who's never been in that situation before, it's not easy. um, so that's part of it. And then I find too there's different points in the season with a young player, like I always found, let's say the first 20 games of a player's OHL career, especially a 16-year-old, you're kind of underwater a little bit and you're just trying to survive. The pace is really high. You have to make decisions quicker than you've ever had to. You have to move quicker than you've ever had to. And players are just trying to keep up physically and mentally. After 20 games, you see them start to settle in a little bit. And then I find they're starting to get comfortable with the league. And then usually in year two is when you start to see like, this player's taking a step or making you jump. So there's a little bit of a process. It's interesting, and you just have to work with them. And part of it too is just talking them through it and helping them feel confident, and having the player understand that like you're drafted for a reason, you're here for a reason, and we don't expect. Yeah, like part of it is getting them to understand that we don't expect them to be an elite player in the league in year one. It's very rare, and every player wants to come in and be that, but that's not the expectation, right? Like it takes time. So getting them to understand it takes time is half the battle.
Butt ends are hockey stick grips, specifically for the top of the stick, designed to replace traditional clock tape. They're made of rubber and offer a more consistent and comfortable grip than tape, aiming to improve performance and reduce slippage. Butt ends are an alternative to regular stick tape that provide enhanced grip and comfort, are durable, reusable, and consistent with the ability to reduce vibration. The grips are available in a variety of styles, designs, colors, and even have options for specific player names. At Butt Ends, they are committed to providing the world's highest quality stick grips and continue to bring new technology and ideas with each new grip design, regardless of sport. Alex Petrangelo, Akil Thomas, Max Domi, Aiden Hill, and Tim Stutzla are just a name of few who have proudly used Butt Ends for peak performance at the NHL level. Check them out at buttendswithaz.com and use our referral code buttends.com/discount/armchairgm to get 10% off your order as part of our community. Engineered for greatness and performance. Butt Ends, the #1 grip in hockey.
Fourth Wall is the official merchandise supplier of the Armchair GM Sports Network. Our user-friendly site is print to order with no minimum items or inventory needed, shipped right to your doorstep safely and efficiently from their North American warehouse. All of our logos are available to supporters, listeners, and viewers can have the best variety available to them for their swag preferences. All items are priced as low as possible, allowing everybody who wants to support our business with the opportunity to do so, receiving quality and comfortable products in return. Shop today at fourthwall.com with the direct link to our Armchair merch store in the description of all episodes and in the bio of all of our social media accounts. Become an Armchair GM today with Fourth Wall.
Hi, this is Larry Millett, and you're listening to OHL Overtime.
Especially when you show up to practice and you're on the fourth line, you used to be in that shooter on the power play. Now you're on the fourth line in practice. You're killing penalties against your top power play unit, and you're almost not a practice dummy, but you're one of those practice players who has to prove himself, play with a purpose, and join that purpose. How important is it to practice with a purpose, Chris? Practice leads to transition in the game. It's how front office members, it's how development staffs find development. How important is practicing with a purpose? And as from yourself, how engaging is practice, and how are you watching practice and really taking notes off players' strides to gain more positive in their development?
Yeah, it's huge, and it's not just your practice on the ice, but for me, it's everything that goes into it every day. Like for an OHL player, like your gym sessions, there has to be a purpose and there has to be some level of pushing yourself, and we're trying to get better. Hockey sense stuff too, like the stuff that I do, like when I have a one-on-one with a player, it's with a purpose. And to me, I love it. The players I work with now, for players to be working with me, they kind of have to seek me out. And it shows that drive and willingness and wanting to do it. But there's purpose to that too. The players that use my database product, there's a purpose to that. Like if you're taking time out of your day to go watch clips and learn and make yourself better. To me, there's tons of purpose in that. And the game is getting global, like as you see, especially in the OHL with the rule change with the NCAA now.
3 imports too.
Absolutely. It's becoming more global, and it is becoming more competitive than it ever has been. So to me, whether you're a young player and you're, I don't know, U12, AAA player, or you're an OHL player, everyone wants your spot. These extra things that we used to do used to be a bonus on top. Like, oh, I'm doing a lot to make myself better and to go above and beyond. But the way the game is going right now, I feel like that's the minimum, because if you're a kid now and you're not doing these things, you're not having purposeful gym sessions, you're not doing one-on-one IQ training, you're not looking at clips every day. If you aren't, there's a kid somewhere that is. So just to maintain your spot, to keep pace with your own development, I think it's so important. And to me, everything has to be done with a purpose. And that's why part of the one-on-one and the work that I do with players is really beneficial, because there's a purpose to everything, and it's guided in a way where we can kind of make your development as efficient as possible.
And Chris, let's say I'm a 14-year-old. I'm 2 years away from my draft year. What's the approach? I come to you. I want to be a part of your company. I want to learn from yourself. What's the first thing that happens when I sign up for your hockey? What's the first thing that happens in the process?
Absolutely. So how it usually works is we'll have our one-on-one sessions, and it's usually done via Microsoft Teams. And it's really easy. We can pull up your shifts, whether like for me, I use Instat personally. If the player's on Instat, it's really easy. If not, if they aren't on Instat, they're responsible for sending me their shifts. And what we'll do is we'll just share our screen. I'll share my screen, pull up their shifts. We'll watch it together, and we break everything down. So it's easier for me to get an initial assessment of their game. And we'll break down every decision, every puck touch, every route, play away from the puck. How can we fix our timing? That way we're working to space at the right times, offensive strategies, defensive strategies, puck battle strategies. For me, we'll break everything down, and we'll evaluate all the decisions in it and understand how this player processes the game and how we can change it and understand how plays develop to add to it. So that would be step one. And then throughout these sessions, I always find I have the most success with players when we can do weekly, just because it allows me to monitor progress every week, and we can add other layers to it and build on it. And then as we go, it allows me to hold them accountable to make sure we're actually applying, the lessons and the discussions. And then I also have a database product. I find, and this really started when I was doing a lot of player development stuff with the team. I would be doing video with a player, and I'd be like, "Hey, this play looks like this game last night in the NHL. Did you see it?" Most players don't watch enough hockey these days.
Yeah.
So I would often get a blank look, and they'd look at you like, no, I didn't. So what I started doing last year was I would pull clips every night and then voice them all over, explaining what players need to see in it. So it's a lot of hockey sense concepts, everything that reinforces exactly what I teach. Some of it is skill mechanics, puck battle strategies, creating offense, competitiveness, anything I see in a game that I think young players need to see and could apply for themselves, I would pull and just voice it over. And then what I started doing is I built out a database on my site that I add to now every week. So that way players can go in at the end of the week and they can see the 20 or 30 clips they need to see from the week that will help make them better. For me, it just streamlines. I know young players especially aren't really watching enough games. They're not sitting down and watching a 3-hour hockey game like they used to. So
the attention span.
That was my exactly. Like, and I joke about it because, like, for me, I'm 27, and my age and younger, everyone is geared towards Instagram and TikTok. 100%. The 30, 40-second attention span, and that's all they've got. So I tried to gear it where the clips are about that length. That way you can watch it, understand it, listen to the voiceover. And then the goal is they can go in at the end of the week and there's 30 clips there for them to see. You can spend a half an hour. The clips are fairly intensive the way they're broken down. But maybe if it's 45 minutes at the end of the week, and you can see all the things you needed to see from that week in the NHL. So that was the idea behind it.
Love it. Honestly, and let's say I'm one of those kids too. I'm in your program. I'm starting to become successful, and not you get in a program and you get successful. That's where that confidence comes in any athlete, any sport. That's the thing. That's your heartbeat when you have confidence, and it's natural. But let's say my routine. Maybe I'm going to the gym 3 times a week, 5 during the week. I'm kind of getting lackadaisical in my approach a little bit. What's that mess like, and how important is that structure and staying in a positive routine? Because routine for an athlete, I was a goalie, and that's probably the most routine freak you can be, because I made sure every single thing was the exact same thing. You start, but when you get into those routines and you get a little lackadaisical with it, how important routine, Chris?
Oh, it's everything, and it's hard to balance. And these kids at this age, like, they have such a complicated life, and I don't lose that knowledge of that as we go. But for them, like, if they're really serious about being a hockey player, you have your gym, you have your practices, you have your games, you have your hockey sense training like this, you have what other power skating you do, you have your skills training, and then on top of that, you have school. So for me, being able to manage your time and understanding a routine and getting into that, it's everything. So it's super important, and I do understand too. Like, it's a lot for these kids. It's a ton for them to be able to manage all that, especially at the younger ages. So I do I get what they're going through, because it's not easy. But to me, these are all the things that are important if you want to have a career in the game and you want to be a pro. To me, it's a really important skill to learn at an early age.
Parents, I remember in baseball, I had an indoor practice facility. I went at a trainer, and I remember I threw one ball, and it was a group session. Coach comes up and says, you're left-handed. Where's your parents? Already talk. I was like 12 years old I'm a young kid, almost too serious at the time for that. How can parents, and I didn't think it was the right situation, but how can parents spend their money positively in development? So hard, right? Because nowadays there's so many people, and it's hard to find that right person. Chris, how important is it to spend their development wisely, especially nowadays in hockey development, if they're serious in finding the right person?
It's so important, and there's different avenues to spend that money into, and it's important to invest in the right way. Um, for me, hockey sense is really important. Your strength and conditioning is really important. The other one where I would say, especially at a young age, would be like the skating. The more skating you can do, the better power skating. But again, it all has to be the right area, and you've got to be learning from the right people. But those are the areas where I think you're going to see the biggest return on your investment. But in today's game, there are millions of different ways for parents to spend money. And that's another part of what I do is, like, I find that I'm able to help navigate parents through these situations that have never been through it before. A lot of them, it's their first kid going through the AAA system. So for me, I can kind of help them evaluate their options and understand, is this going to be a high return on your investment? Is this going to be a low return on your investment? And just because it may not seem like a high return on your investment, your kid might still have a great experience out of it. Like, one of those for me is spring hockey. I'm not a huge fan of spring hockey, and I don't think it really is going to make you better as a player, but I'm never going to say no to playing hockey with your buddies. So they all have different kinds of value. But in terms of, like, purely developing your game and making you a better player, there are definitely certain avenues that are going to bring you a higher return on your investment for sure.
And can coaches get involved as well with their team? Teams allowed to get involved? Like, coach says, hey, Chris, I want you to do analysis on my team. come in for a session, video session, maybe open up the whiteboard, the active board. Is that a possibility as well with the coaches?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd be open to that. There is one team that I do work with right now, a minor hockey team that they bring me in every 2 weeks to do video. It's a
on.
U14 team with the Hamilton Steel, and they're fantastic. They're great kids. Every time I come in, they're so dialed in and they want to see video and they want to get better. They ask great questions. They work really hard. They're a great group and they have a fantastic coaching staff. So for me, they're really fun to work with. So I would definitely be open to that if other coaches are interested. And for me, I would definitely welcome it.
Get to communities, you get to arenas, you see this all the time. If you want to be a scout, obviously on Twitter, it's one of those things. On social media in general, you see people especially in the OHL level, Chris, where every draft time in the Ontario Hockey League, you see everybody's list, and then you see a team drafts a guy, and it's like, wow, that's either a steal or why you take them that early, it's a reach. How important is it to get to arenas and be on the pulse of the game, on the season, and really be involved here with the development side of things?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything, especially in scouting too. Like I always found when you're scouting, part of it is evaluating what you see on the ice and understanding what their future potential is going to be and being able to project that. Um, but the most important thing is when you're drafting a player, you're drafting a person. So I've always found getting to know the family, the character of the kid, that it's so important, and it's so important in development too. Just understanding, for me, like I want to know which kids are dedicated and want to be players, are going to end up putting in the work to get themselves there. I always say, even with my clients, like I can give you all the tools and I can give you all the direction, but how successful you're going to be is ultimately on you, and it's how hard you want to work and it's how dedicated you are to this. um, like I can give you tons of information and I can direct you in the right way and point you in the right direction. um, but ultimately it's up to them. And the one thing too with my clients, all of the players that I work with on a regular basis have gotten incredibly better, which is amazing for me to see.
It's awesome.
It's unbelievable and it's really special. It's a special feeling. But I also know that that's not all me. Like it's them. They're putting in the work and they're doing the work and they're applying the information and they're putting in all this effort to make themselves better. It's no different than when you draft a player and the expectations and development in that way when you work for a team.
100%. And nowadays with the player, we talked about this earlier on in the segment where it's harder to talk to players. It's not like how it used to be. The game's changed a ton on the ice, off the ice. When you talk to a player, not specifically drafters, we see the testimonials come on the screen now for those on YouTube. How important is it, their relationship with a player, and to be able to be thorough with them? We used to have that term in Hamilton when you're with the Bulldogs, that dog mentality. And not a bulldog. And that term was used so much around the facility, and it went from top to bottom. And when you talk to a player nowadays, how important is it that obviously the thoroughness is there, but to really, Chris, be straight to the point, but really be almost a friend and a coach at the same time with the player to get the best for their development?
For sure. Yeah. It's everything. And you touched on it there. Players and people are different today than, let's say, 25 years ago. And the tactics we use when we coach and we help make players better, they have to change and evolve too. So a big one for me is a lot of positive reinforcement. So when I see the things that I want to, you got to point it out, you got to pat them on the back. And then if they make a mistake, it's not about getting mad at them or yelling at them like in that old school coach
Oh,
mentality.
the worst. The worst feeling is when you get pulled and then you get told how bad you were that night as a goalie. It's going to happen. And
Yeah,
you get told how bad you were as a goalie. And the next thing you're going out to the game, that's all you're thinking about, not getting pulled. Glad you mentioned
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, and so for me, it's always been like if we're going through video with a player and I see a mistake from them, I take it as something on me too, and I'm like, okay, like I need to teach, and maybe I didn't teach this concept in the right way that resonated with them, and I need to approach it differently. Like that's my first mentality when I see a play I don't really like or a bad read. I'm like, okay, like it's they messed up, they made a mistake, it happens, but it's not about getting mad at them. It's about teaching and understanding, like, hey, when we're in this situation next time, how can we play it differently? And I find that approach works so much better with players. There's a lot more respect when you come at it that way from the player. Like they don't want to be told, "Hey, you messed up here. You did this wrong. You did this wrong." A lot of the time, they know. Like if they make a bad play and they turn the puck over, and it leads to a goal against. They know, so they don't need to be reamed out for it. For me, it's more of, okay, we didn't play this properly. What can we do next time, and how can we play it differently? And it's about teaching more than anything.
Absolutely. And you have some impressive testimonials on your website as well, Chris. Social media, website, where can I register? And what's your social media? What's your website?
Absolutely. So my business Instagram is Chris Whalen Hockey, and my site is chriswhalenhockey.com. There you can reach out to me to schedule one-on-one. I also have my development library product, which is a monthly subscription. It's $25 a month, which I feel like is very reasonable to get elite breakdowns.
100%.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of success with that there. So when you go in, you can access. There's about 300 clips from last year. There's about 120 or so from this year already in there, and I update it every week, adding new clips. There's a school style worksheet in there too, so you can download a fillable PDF and create your own study notes to create like a little study booklet for yourself. There's a lot of content in there, and it's geared towards helping players start to think the game like an OHL player or like a pro. Everything in there is coming from my experience of what OHL players need, and obviously I'm a little biased because I put it together. But I feel
Understandable.
like,
Great.
yeah, like I feel like there's not one player in the OHL that can't benefit from it in some way. To me, and younger ages as well, players that aspire to be OHL players. To me, I'm at the stage, and I believe the way the game is going now that something like this exists, I think players are at a disadvantage if they don't have it and they don't use it.
Absolutely. Well said. I think it's a great point to end on. Chris of Chris Whalen Hockey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the time. Hope to have you on again. This is something that I've been thinking about the last year since you've launched. I've been always drilling you about it in arenas. One of the best people I've met with the Bulldogs. Looking forward to seeing you in arena soon. Chris, thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, and I'd be happy to come on anytime. I really enjoyed it. I had a blast. So thanks again.
Well, maybe for BC in the clouds, maybe we'll start a development pod here on the network. That'd be pretty cool. Just chat about development weekly and get your thoughts, pick your brain a little bit on that. That'd be a great time. But Chris, thanks for coming on. ChrisWhalenHockey.com. It's on the internet. Look it up. It's a great website. I'm telling you right now. Follow him on Instagram, Chris Whalen Hockey. It's incredible. Always on there. Love the little vlogs he's doing. Play-by-play, watching games. It's been great. Chris, keep up the good work. Thanks for coming on. For BC in the Clouds, that'll do it for this edition of OHL Overtime. I'm Colin Ward, and we will see you next edition.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.